I have to share this. Sometimes things happen that you don't know, and it's funny. I won't spell out who it is, but I got a text a few minutes ago, and I relate. I'm going to read the text to you. It says, someone needs to take the tambourine off the stage before Mike preaches. The air conditioner is making it tap. Laugh out loud, my ADHD was going crazy trying to find the tapping noise. I thought that was hilarious because as I was doing the welcome, I could hear that tapping noise also, and I kept thinking, what is that noise? It's got to go away. I'm going to go nuts. So hopefully for the two of us, maybe only two of us heard it, drove us nuts. Hopefully that was the noise. I know Fred was like, what is he doing with our tambourine? Because he has no rhythm. Surely he's not going to play it, and I'm not. Never worry. I'm never going to do anything instrumental for you and not make you endure that. Like I said, we're in week 2 on relationships, and relationships are a very, very important part of our lives. And during this whole series, we're just going back to see how does the Bible say, what does God teach us about having godly biblical relationships so they can be happy, so they can be healthy, so they can be successful, so they can be the best that they can be. This morning, we're going to talk about a topic and an element that's so important that frankly, if it's missing from your relationships, it's going to kill that relationship. It's going to kill that relationship very, very quickly. And the element that I am talking about is kindness. Kindness. I know it sounds so simple, but it's easy to overlook. It's easy to take for granted. It's easy to kind of just skip right over it. But I'm telling you, if kindness is not present in your relationships, you can kiss that relationship goodbye. Proverbs chapter 3 says this. It says, never let loyalty and kindness leave you. Tie them around your neck as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart. Then you will find favor with both God and people, and you will earn a good reputation. Never let loyalty and kindness leave you. He says this is so important that you should tie it around your neck, that it should live close to your heart, that you should never, ever forget it. God is telling us that kindness has to be central to every relationship, to every interaction we have, to every conversation we have, and everything we do in life. Kindness needs to be part of it. Actually, kindness needs to be front and center. For those of you that are married, husbands and wives, if you don't have kindness in your relationship, the passion that you have for one another will begin to die. If kindness is not part of your relationship, the lack thereof, it will start starving your marriage of affection. For those of us with kids, without kindness, our kids won't feel unconditional love. That they won't feel cared for, they won't feel secure, they won't feel valued, they won't feel happy. They will struggle if kindness is not there. In your friendships, if the voice of kindness is not there, those friendships will start to separate and to fracture and to get into all kinds of trouble. I mean, this is a big deal. Relationships that we have need to have kindness in them. Without kindness, your coworkers are going to start to resent you. Are going to start going the other way when they see you coming. They're going to start ignoring your calls and your emails. They will become adversaries in our life instead of allies. Kindness is a big deal. And the lack of kindness will cause the most important relationships to wither, to die. They become unhinged. I've told you this before, but I always find it kind of amusing when modern science or psychology tells us this new great finding that has been in the Bible all along. And it happens all the time. I've mentioned this name before, and I'm going to use it again because this man's study, Dr. John Gottman, he's a psychologist, and you should go read his studies. He's amazing. He has written over 40 books on this idea of successful marriages and successful relationships. He's the leading expert on those two topics. Everyone respects him. He has a lot of amazing things, but one of the craziest things he can do, he can spend just a few minutes with couples, and he can determine which couples are going to get divorced quickly, which ones will stay married unhappily, and which ones will have successful marriages. And get this, he does this with a 94% rating. He's right 9 out of 10 times. It's amazing. He's done this over a long period of time. And here's what he looks at. He doesn't ask a bunch of questions or anything. He looks at one pretty simple thing. He watches couples interact with each other, and he says, are couples' interactions with each other, are they described by kindness or contempt? Which word would you use to describe how they respond to each other? He says contempt is the number one factor that tears marriages apart. In his research, he found some amazing things. People who are focused on criticizing their spouse, now get this, people who are focused on criticizing their spouse, that they miss the positive things their spouse are actually doing. And so their spouse can be doing the right things, but they're so busy focused on criticizing them that they miss the right things they're doing. But more than that, they dream up negative things that aren't really happening in the relationship. Where do you think that's going to lead? So he has found that kindness is one of the top indicators and predictors of the satisfaction and the stability of a marriage. If kindness is evident in the relationship, each person feels cared for, each person feels loved, each person feels validated and valued. But he goes on to say, this is true in marriage, but it's not only true in marriage, it's true in all relationships. No matter what kind of relationship you have, whether it's a co-worker relationship or with your family and your kids and your spouse, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, family members, whoever it is, if you really want your relationships to work well, to work at their highest, and to be successful, well, we've got to learn what kindness really looks like. And then how do we do it? How do we act on that? How do we share that and show that with other people? And so this morning, that's what I'm shooting for. To show you what the Bible says about kindness, and then how we can live it out in our lives. So let me show you quickly 3 biblical truths about kindness. The first is this. Kindness is a fruit of the Spirit. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, in the book of Galatians, chapter 5, there's a list of 9 qualities, 9 characteristics that God gives us. And he says these are things that are going to grow in your life. These are things that are going to become evident in your life as you have a relationship with me. As you grow in your relationship with me, each of these will become more evident in your life. And as your faith grows, as it blossoms, they will get stronger and stronger and stronger and more evident. He says there's 9 things that will grow. He says there's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That as you grow in your relationship with God, those 9 things will start to swell up within you and overflow. As you grow in that relationship with God, He produces those things in you. That has huge implications for us. See, we have to understand that kindness isn't something you produce on your own. You might be thinking, my kindness, that makes sense. I see what you're saying. I can agree with you on that. I'm going to work hard at being a more kind person. I'm going to work hard to display kindness in my relationships. And here's what's going to happen. I'm just going to tell you on the front end. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to do it for a day, 2 days, 3 days. For those of you that are serious overachievers, you're going to do it a week. Maybe 8 days. But then you're going to go back to what you were. Well, you were, because kindness is a fruit of the Spirit. It's not something you produce. It's not something that you can just fabricate all the time. It's something that God develops within us. Kindness is a sign of spiritual maturity. See, the truth is, the more we grow in our faith, the more we grow in our relationship with God, the more kindness we should be displaying, more kindness should be evident in our lives. And so I'm just going to be very blunt and just throw this out here for you. If you're lacking basic kindness, if you're just lacking basic kindness, it's a sign that you have some growing to do in your spiritual life. You can say whatever you want about your spiritual life. Truth is, if you don't show basic kindness, you are lacking in this area. Now, here's the thing about kindness. It's an interesting one. Kindness is both a characteristic we've got to work on, but it's also a fruit of the Spirit that God develops within us. These two things go together. It's what God develops within us, but we've also got to work on it. But for it to be more than a week or week and a half, 2 weeks, a month, whatever, for lasting change, for true kindness to keep coming out of us, it's really a fruit of the Spirit. Second truth is this: kindness is love in action. It's actively showing love to others. It's an action word. It's a verb. Now, we all know that kindness isn't the easy path to take in our relationships, is it? Kindness isn't always simple. Kindness isn't always the natural path that we want to take, especially when we're in a disagreement with someone. If Liz and I are having disagreement, there's a lot of things in my mind. On my own, kindness is not at the forefront. It's just not there. It's a tough one for us. But we have to remember that kindness is love in action. It's a verb. Not an adjective. It's putting love into action. Third truth: kindness is the glue that holds relationships together. That's how important kindness is. It's the glue that holds relationships together. It doesn't matter if it's a friendship, if it's a marriage, it's a relationship with your kids, dating relationship, co-workers. I don't care what the relationship is. There's a lot of elements that are important to having this happy, healthy, successful relationship. But kindness is the glue. It's the small, everyday acts of love that strengthen the relationship, that hold the relationship together, that bind it together. In Colossians chapter 3, it says, "Since God chose you to be the holy people He loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy." What's the next word? Kindness. Clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And so the rest of our time together this morning, what I want to do is I want to give us a biblical refresher on kindness. Show you some practical things we can do, some actions we can take to live out kindness in our most important relationships that we walk in each and every day. And so as we do this, as we look at this, I want you to think about the important relationships that you have in your life. Whether it's a spouse or your kids or family member, or co-worker, whatever it is, just think about those important relationships and how you can take what we're talking about and lay over those relationships. And you'll see amazing things happen. First thing is this: to be kind, I speak encouraging words. I speak encouraging words. I mean, it's just hard to talk about kindness without talking about the words that we use, because our words have power. I mean, you know the old saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Isn't that dumb? Stupid? All kinds of words I can use. It's just not true. You know it's not true. I know it's not true, because bones can heal pretty quickly, actually, but a broken heart, not so much. Hurt feelings, not so much. Well, when words cut, when words penetrate your heart in a painful way, they leave wounds, that they leave scars, and they just don't heal up quickly, and you can carry them around 20, 30, 40 years, even longer. And if we're carrying those around, they can hurt for decades and decades, and they can still hurt just as much today as they did then, and the wounds are fresh, because words are powerful. But kind words, encouraging words are tools that we can use to lift people up. But negative, hurtful words are weapons that we can use to tear people down. And as we think about the way we can use our tongue, let me ask you, which do you think is more powerful? Do you think kind, encouraging words are more powerful, or negative words? What do you think? Say the answer out loud. Okay, you're wrong. Maybe. Which one's more powerful? If you said kind words are more powerful, you're wrong. Studies will back me up on this. Going back to Dr. Gottman, he did this study on the power of words in relationships. And you know his findings. You just don't know that this saying came from him. You've heard the findings. It says it takes 5 positive, encouraging words to make up for every negative word said. I'm sure you've heard that. It came from his studies. Negative words are incredibly powerful. You know this to be true. Some of you are still holding on to hurt from words spoken years ago. You don't forget it because it hurt, because it cut deep, because it left a scar in your life. Dr. Gottman's study showed something even more amazing to me. People who focus on the criticizing spouse, they miss 50% of the positive things the spouse is doing. And like I said, they also see negativity when it's not even there. And they are so convinced that the negative happened that they will say, well, you said or you did, and then they will repeat it, and then they find out later, no, they dreamed that up. That never even happened. In other words, when you're being critical, you can't see the good in the other person, and you're also blinded by the good things that they do. And this becomes this deadly, deadly cycle that just goes over and over and over. You become negative, and then you use negative words, and you can't see half the good things that they're doing, and then you make up false things happening, and this cycle is just running crazy, and it's going. And as that cycle gets crazier and crazier, it destroys every relationship that it touches. But the good news is that we can change the cycle. We can use words to build each other up and to encourage each other. 1 Thessalonians 5 says, so encourage each other and build each other up just as you are already doing. So let's get personal here. Do you use words that are more uplifting, more encouraging, more positive, more kind? Or do you use your words as a weapon to tear people down? I mean, be honest with yourself. This isn't really between me and you. This is for you. Think about your most important relationships and think about the words that you use in those relationships. Are you kind with your words? Choose to speak encouraging words in those relationships. Proverbs chapter 16 says, kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul, and what? Healthy for the body. I'm not even going to touch that. There's tons of studies out there that proven this to be true. Our words matter. So choose to speak encouraging words. Second, to be kind, I give my full attention. I give my full attention. The greatest currency in kindness is attention. If you want to express kindness to a coworker, if you want to show love to your child or your spouse, or you want to let a friend know that you care, it's so important that you give them your undivided attention. Not partial attention, not a little bit of attention, but your full attention. This is a big deal. It sounds so elementary, but it's difficult for so many people. Let me give you an example. What it looks like plays out in my life. When I come to the end of the day and I'm tired and I'm worn out and I just want to do nothing, and I just want to do that, and then it takes a lot of discipline and it takes a lot of energy on my part to give my undivided attention to Liz or to one of the boys when they wanted to have some conversation. It just takes a lot within me to do it. Or maybe you could be at work and a coworker comes in and you've got so much to get done, but this coworker comes in and they want to talk or they want help with some project, and all you're thinking of is, please go away. I've got a lot of work to do. It takes a lot of attention. It takes a lot of energy and discipline to give them that attention because you're so busy. When I don't give my full attention to people I care about, they don't feel loved, that they don't feel appreciated, they don't feel important, they don't feel like they matter. When we don't give people our full attention, what we're really saying is, I would rather be doing this, whatever this is more important to me right now than you are. And I find myself being guilty of this, and guess what? So are you. We are getting worse and worse as a culture about giving half attention to anything. In Dr. Gottman's research, he found out that one person tries to engage the other person in conversation, and they try to have this conversation, and at that moment, the other person has a choice to make. And this relates directly to us. Person comes to us, they try to engage us in conversation, we have a choice to make. I can turn towards that person and engage them in conversation, or I can turn away from that person and not engage them, not give them my undivided attention. And it's not always physical. It can be body language that we give. It can give attitude that we give. When we turn towards them, guess what it is? It's kindness. When we turn away from them, guess what it is? It's contempt. Back to the beginning of kindness and contempt. It doesn't even have to be a big conversation. It can be a little conversation about anything. That they're just trying to connect. Since my boys are not here, and I'm not going to let them watch this sermon, I can share this example so they don't hold it over my head later. But I pick the boys up from daycare most days. And when I pick them up, one of my boys is pretty quiet. He's the short, long-haired, hippied one. And the other one is taller and a talker. He likes to ask questions upon question about question on top of question. And we get in the car. We're not normally even in the car. And Logan will ask me some question. He will engage me in conversation. And I love Logan so much, but there have been many times, if I'm point of confession here, where I have blown him off. There have been times when I don't want to engage in that conversations. And so there are times I really don't even engage with him. I either ignore him or I change the subject. Now, I'm not mean about it. I'm not ugly about it. But when I do that, what did I do? What did I do to Logan? I turned away emotionally. I didn't turn my back on him. But emotionally, I turned away from him. He just wants to connect with me, and he's asking me this question. He's asking for attention, and I rejected him. Now, that's how that plays out in my life in that way. For those of you that are married, that they have found that marriages that end in divorce quickly, that they use this phrase called turnarounds. And basically, it's where you turn towards them or you turn away from them. They have found that in marriages that end quickly and divorce happens fast, the turnaround rate is 33%. The basic idea being that the spouse engages in conversation, and 1 out of 3 times the other spouse has that conversation. They engage in the conversation. They turn towards 1 out of 3 times. They found that very successful marriages, ones that lasted for decades, had a turnaround rate of right at 87%. Almost 9 out of 10 times they turned towards and they engaged in the conversation. Man, this is huge. This is so important in all relationships. I mean, let's be honest. If your kids are here, you can just be honest in your head. If they're not here, you can be honest. How many times have your kids tried to engage in a conversation with you about something that was dumb? A bunch. I'll just say it for you if you don't want to say it. And so you ignored them. But here's the truth. It was dumb. That is true. But it wasn't dumb to them. They cared about it. And when we reject them, we think we are rejecting the topic. They don't usually see it that way. They see it as a rejection of them. And that's totally different. I mean, how many times has a coworker came into your office and they start discussing with you, talking with you, and you haven't even looked up from your computer, and you keep typing, and sure, you have the conversation with them, but you never even look at them. You never turn towards them, and you just keep going on with them. You know what you're saying to them? It isn't good. Man, I must feel like confessions today. I can think of 2 times I did that this week. While I was working on this sermon, ironically, was one of them. Hopefully it wasn't this point. You're not going to have healthy relationships if you don't give full attention. Bottom line, you're not. You're not going to have healthy relationships to the people that matter the most with you if you don't give them attention. Dr. Gottman's made a lot of money selling books about this, but the Bible has told us this forever. Forever. It says in Philippians chapter 2, it says, don't look out for your own interest. Don't only engage in the things that you're interested in, but take an interest in others too. Now, by the way, what is one of the biggest robbers we have today? Well, what's one of the biggest robbers of attention that we have today? Yeah, TV's good, but more so than that, a lot of you's holding up your phone. This steals our attention. And you know this is true. This actually happens so much that there's actually a word for it. I found this kind of amusing. It's a combination of the word phone and the word snubbing. Though they call it, let me sure I get this right, they call it fubbing. How many of you have ever been fubbed by someone? I might make a T-shirt with that. That'd be pretty good. It'd be a conversation starter. They come and they want to engage with you, or you want to engage with them, and they're just looking at the phone. It's not fun when it happens. It irritates us, but we've all been guilty. And so I want to challenge you to work really hard at giving your full attention to your coworkers, to your spouse, to your friends, because remember, the greatest currency of kindness is attention. Third, I practice acts of kindness. I practice acts of kindness. You've heard the phrase random acts of kindness, where you buy coffee for someone in the line behind you, or you pay someone's meal. That's a good thing to do, but that's not what I'm talking about here. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about some random act of kindness to a stranger. I'm talking about intentional acts of kindness for the relationships that you are in, for the people that are most important to you. I'm talking about interrupting your day or your schedule or your plans long enough to put your love into action, to serve someone, to encourage someone in some small way. Kindness is love in action. 1 John chapter 3 says, let's not merely say that we love each other. Let us show the truth by our actions. Isn't it true that a lot of times it's way easier to say I love you than to actually show our love through actions? It's easy to say the words. Well, what are some practical ways? Let me challenge you this week. What are some practical ways that you can show love through your actions? Because kindness requires action. Well, what are some practical ways that you can put your love into action this week? It doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to be something huge. Actually, the truth is usually the small things, the daily acts of love are more powerful. If it's your spouse's time to take out the trash, take out the trash. If a coworker needs help with a project, you help them with it, even if you guys stay late to do it. When your kids dump something on the floor, they spill something on the floor, instead of jumping all over them, you get down on your hands and knees and you help them clean it up. That's love in action. Now, I've got another confession, since I'm on confession road today. God has a sense of humor. The other night, as I'm thinking about this sermon, kids have been to bed, Liz has been to bed, I'm enjoying the quiet. I go into the kitchen to get ice cream, and I go in to get my ice cream, and I notice there's dishes there. And I think how weird that is, because I know it drives Liz crazy when she gets up in the morning and the kitchen has anything dirty in it. It drives her nuts. And this is a very uncommon thing. You know what my first thought was? Leave them there. Add your bowl. It'll give her something to do tomorrow morning while she's getting ready. That was my first thought, but then it hit me. Really, Mike? You're talking about kindness and practicing kindness. So I gathered them up and threw them away. No, just kidding. I did the dishes. But I'm talking about showing kindness. Choosing kindness over selfishness. It's easy to do your own thing. It's easy to get yourself a cup of coffee. It's easy to go in the workroom and wash your own dish. But we need to show kindness. It's easy, and this one drives me nuts too. It's so easy today to put the earbuds in your ear and act like nothing else is going on around you in the office, in the world. But we need to intentionally slow down and think about others. Galatians chapter 6 says, therefore, whenever we have the opportunity, we should do good to everyone, especially to those in the family of faith. And so I want to challenge you to show kindness this week. Show kindness in a practical way every day this week. Do that and then see how God blesses your life. See how your attitude changes. And I can tell you this, as you show more and more kindness, as you do this more and more in your life, it won't be something you have to think about doing. It will become part of your lifestyle. And you're going to start to enjoy doing this. And it's going to bring joy to your relationships. So let me bring this all together. I speak encouraging words. I give my full intention. I do practice acts of kindness. And then, to be kind, lastly, I respond to God's kindness in me. Remember we said that kindness is the glue that holds all these relationships together. It's such a simple thing, but it can be so difficult to do. It's easy to overlook. It's easy to neglect. It's easy to forget. But kindness has the power to transform every relationship we have. Because remember, kindness is what? It's love in action. Now, before you go out and you start this quest to be kind to everyone you see and to be friendly to everyone you see and to put love into action, I want you to remind you about one truth we talked about at the beginning today. Remember that kindness is a fruit of the Spirit. It is a kindness is a characteristic that God develops inside of us. It's something that God develops in someone that is following Him in relationship with Him. Kindness doesn't really happen from just sheer willpower. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to be kind. Mike, man, what you said made so much good. I'm going to transform my marriage, or I'm going to have a better relationship with my friend or coworker, kid, whoever. I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to show an act of kindness every day. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to be deliberate. I'm going to use encouraging words. It's going to transform everything. Like I said, you can make yourself do that for a few days, maybe a week, 8 days, something like that, but you're eventually going to go back. You're going to go back to what is natural to you, to using the same words, to having the same attitudes, to having the same habits. So can I let you in on a secret? Here is why that doesn't work. And I want you to catch this. Here is why that doesn't work. Because ultimately, kindness is less about a relationship between you and another person. Kindness is really about the relationship between you and God. And as this relationship gets stronger and stronger, these relationships will get better and better. Kindness is something that comes from God, and when you get right with God, then you can move from doing kind things, from forcing yourself to do kind things, to actually being a kind person, where it just flows out of you. There's a huge difference. When we receive His kindness and we experience His love, it changes everything. Romans chapter 2 says, "Don't you see how wonderfully kind, tolerant, and patient God is with you? Does this mean nothing to you? Can't you see that His kindness is intended to turn you from your sin?" God loves us so much. He cares about us so much that He wants us to turn from the path that is leading us away from Him. He wants us to turn away from the path that's going to lead to emptiness, that's going to lead to regret, that's going to lead to pain. He wants us to turn away from that path and turn towards Him. So in the ultimate act of kindness, God sent His Son Jesus to die on the cross so that we could have a relationship with Him. And part of that relationship is we get forgiveness of our sins. And as we experience more forgiveness, we are able to forgive others more and more. And we can have that experience, and we can experience God's peace in our life, and we can experience His presence in our life and His power in our lives. And so I have to ask you this basic question. Have you accepted God's kindness? Do you have a relationship with God that is active and living, where He directs your steps? Titus chapter 3 says, "But when the kindness and love of God our Savior appeared," not our kindness, not what we can dream up. This talking about God's kindness to us. "But when the kindness and love of God our Savior appeared, He saved us, not because of righteous things we had done, but because of His mercy." That is true love in action. That's real kindness. So as we think about that, I want to invite you to stand with me. I'm going to pray for us. That we would submit to God, and that we would grow in our relationship with Him, and that He will transform us, that this fruit of the Spirit will grow in us, where we go from forcing ourselves to do kind acts to being a kind person. Let me pray for us. And Father, I just thank You that You work in our lives each and every day. Lord, that You promise us that as we are growing in our relationship with You, some fruit of the Spirit will begin to show themselves, not in things that we force, but they will just ooze out of us. They will just come out of us. Lord, help us to grow in our relationship with You so that You can work in us and You can work through us and impact the relationships around us. Lord, as we are doing this, as we are turning to You, remind us to also do what we can do on our part. Help us to speak encouraging words. Lord, help us to think when we are not giving someone our full attention that we will turn towards them, that we'll put our phone down, we'll quit looking at the computer, we'll stop typing, whatever it is, that we'll give them our full attention. Lord, help us to practice acts of kindness, to show how much we care about the relationships that we're in. But most of all, I pray that each of us would respond to the kindness that you've shown us by offering your Son Jesus on the cross so that we can have a relationship with you. Lord, help us to grow in that relationship, that as we are following you, as we are disciples of you, that we'd allow you to work in us and through us in a powerful way. Now, thank you for doing just that. And all this I pray in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.